Tanse netute maktiar wheatly nisigasun opasqueak uchanina. Tawau, welcome to APTN National News. A battery recycling plant is facing federal charges for alleged illegal dumping into the St. Lawrence Seaway in Quebec. The company announced a recent spill in the city of St. Catherine, neighboring Ganawage Mohawk territory, causing environmental impact concerns for the Mohawk Council of Ganawage. Savannah Craig has more.
Battery recycling plant Terrapure is facing 52 charges for violating the Fisheries Act. The Mohawk Council of Ganawage only found out about the alleged dumping 3 months later in the media.
It's very concerning, very, very concerning, especially within the larger context where Ganawage is seeking to reacquire lands. So this becomes a very big issue.
Terrapure is located on land the council is seeking to reclaim, creating concerns for the impacts on Ganawage's environment. Terrapure has confirmed that a new spill occurred on January 29th. In an email to APTN News, Terrapure says approximately 65,000 liters of water spilled inside their facilities. 10,000 liters of water flowed outside, with 1,000 liters flowing to the storm sewer.
We don't know what the liquid was. We don't know what the impacts are.
The council says this will not affect Ganawage's drinking water.
Our intakes go under the seaway and into the river. So we draw fresh water from the river, not the seaway.
But Chief Yahihio DeLille says concerns of environmental impacts are still there.
We're waiting for the thaw to come in so we can get access to more of the water as well as the lands. But we are definitely setting up the system to start rolling out a very extensive environmental assessment.
The alleged illegal dumping of sulfate and lead into the St. Lawrence Seaway occurred between November 2020 and December 2023. 38 charges have also been put forward against the city of St. Catherine for violating the same law. The council is now meeting with St. Catherine, hoping for better communication.
The mayor seemed to be a little bit more at ease after having spoken with us, realizing that we're basically on the same page.
Quebec needs to come to the table now and really sit with Ganawage Onu, Mohawk Council of Ganawage, to explore long-term sustainable solutions for the betterment of all people that are involved, their citizens and ours.
APTN News reached out to Quebec's Ministry of Environment. We did not receive a comment before our deadline. We also requested an interview with representatives of St. Catherine. The city did not offer anyone for an interview. Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Ganawage, Mohawk Territory.
Kinanaskimit in Savannah. The public hearing on Bill 1, the proposed Quebec Constitution, took a tense turn when an incident of disrespect targeted chiefs, many of whom had traveled long distances to be at the proceedings. APTN's Kim Sullivan witnessed the scene and has more details on what happened.
Yesterday at the National Assembly was consultation and public hearings for Bill 1 in Quebec, which is a law about the Quebec Constitution, a law that they say will be the law of all laws and recognizing Quebec people as a nation. The AFNQL was here to be able to speak at the public hearing. It came with multiple chiefs in solidarity, but one was refused entry into the room due to his Sacred Eagle staff.
Aujourd'hui peut créer un précédent au niveau de la réglementation de l'Assemblée nationale.
C'est toujours ce qu'on nous répond,
ce geste n'est pas en vain, je veux vous le dire.
En tout respect, c'est toujours le même argument qu'on nous répond. On peut créer des précédents. C'est justement une occasion historique de pouvoir changer les choses ensemble.
Regional Chief of the AFNQL, Francis Véropol, as well as Wendage's Chief Pierre Picard, said that this was not only deceiving, it was also insulting.
Il y en a qui ont voyagé aller-retour 16, 15, 14 heures de voiture pour venir ici et on les refuse parce qu'on apporte notre bâton secret qui nous donne cette force, cette bienveillance, ce respect, même pour nous-mêmes, mais envers l'institution et les gens qui sont à l'intérieur. Donc, c'est extrêmement décevant.
Et j'ajouterais à la déception l'insulte.
Grand Chief of Ganawage, Cody Daibo, did add that this is not only symbolic, but it should be welcome into arenas of discussion like this one.
We're taught whenever we interact with colonial or foreign governments that we have to go in dressed as who we are supposed to be so that they know who they're talking to at the end of the day. And I mean, that was cut out. Luckily, I guess ribbon shirts are okay, so.
The chief that was refused entry into the room is Chief Sipi Flamand of the community of Manawan. He says that this law is anchored into systemic racism and that Quebec is being quite headstrong trying to continue to push it.
Ce sont des objets sacrés qui nous sont chers, qui nous portent nos valeurs. C'est notre histoire, c'est notre territoire, c'est toute notre philosophie vient de là.
It's the president of the commission that did not allow Chief Sipi Flamand into the room. Political parties were actually welcoming of this sacred object and even wanted to put it to vote, but that was refused.
La commission ne peut pas aller à l'encontre des règles de base établies par l'Assemblée nationale.
Adding fuel to the fire, Minister of Justice of Quebec, Simon Jolin Barrette, accused Regional Chief Francis Véropol of lying.
Vous dites plusieurs choses que j'ai dites sur des propos qui sont inexacts et qui me sont attribués, et vous savez très bien que c'est pas ça que j'ai dit.
Manon Massé and Zol Zanetti from the party Québec Solidaire actually said that they were quite disturbed by the events and had this to say.
D'un point de vue de diplomatie, là, j'ai trouvé ça petit et scandaleux.
Sacred objects are being more and more recognized and accepted in Canadian Parliament as part of an approach focused on reconciliation and respect for spiritual rights. Chief of Lac-Simon, Lucien Webananik, says that this should also happen in Quebec.
Ils préfèrent voir ces objets-là dans leur musée. Hein? Ça n'a pas sa place dans les musées. Ça appartient aux Premières Nations. Et c'est un grand signe de respect qu'on permet ces objets-là sacrés de permettre leur entrée dans les différents parlements au pays. C'est ce qui manque au Québec.
For APTN National News, I'm Kim Sullivan in Quebec City.
Tapwagi Kim. And we tell you about a safe house initiative in northern Manitoba meant to help our unhoused relatives. That and more when we come back. Cheskwa. Come on in, Pete Degue. With limited infrastructure in many First Nations, finding resources to help unhoused relatives battling addictions becomes a hard task. But in northern Manitoba, one community is finding creative ways to tackle the issue.
Come on, Nugget Power!
It may look like an average night in for many, but being inside a safe space and cooking dinner wasn't always possible for these members of the Norway House Cree Nation. Robert Crate is one of about 25 clients here on any given day. The 41-year-old father's been homeless for nearly 5 years and is trying to kick his addiction problem.
I lost my family and had a high-paying job before, and because of this addiction I had in my life, addicted to drugs and alcohol, and it really took a lot out of my life. I used to stay in the streets in Winnipeg and Thompson. I would sleep anywhere because a drug would take me to a dark place. You know, I had a hard time forgiving myself, but I thank God for bringing me to this place where it gives me hope.
These trailers were once temporary living quarters for construction workers building infrastructure on this reserve. Instead of removing the trailers when crews left, leadership turned this into a 32-bed facility they call the Safe House Initiative. Councillor Dion Clark holds the health portfolio for the band. He says Norway House has rampant issues of addictions and homelessness.
Detox is 10 days. Treatment centers are usually 28 days. We don't have a time limit. We'll work with people, and when they're ready to get back on their feet and move on, they can move on when they're ready.
Unlike a homeless shelter, everyone is given their own private room and don't have to leave during the day. The Safe House opened over a year ago as a pilot initiative funded by Chief and Council.
We only worked with a small group at that time. It was like 14 people, and more than half of them got jobs right away, and they were stabilized. They sobered up on their own, detoxed on their own.
But in order to sober up, mental and spiritual health needs to become a priority, says Community Wellness Coordinator Susan Albert.
You know, bring therapists to our community, to bring psychiatrists, to bring psychologists, and a lot of that time we don't get that help. And so what we do is that we try to find our answers.
And that's where support workers like Susan Meenow play vital roles in this house.
So we're more or less trying to work with all the other departments in Norway House, like the community wellness, harm reduction. We're trying to bring everything together to try and make it happen for the people that are staying here.
Bringing cultural programming and healing to them. This Safe House doesn't get any government funding directly. Proposals have been rejected by the province and the feds. But it's important to this community, as most folks here donate time, food, and even clothes to help their fellow band members like Robert Crate, who are grateful for the hand up.
We made new friends here, and so all we have here is one another to be healing.
As he works toward his sobriety so his children can get their father back. Right on, Robert, you got this. Student athletes in some First Nations in Northern Ontario are getting ready for the annual Anishinabe Winter Games. The 3-day competition starts February 24th. Grades 4 to 8 students will head to White Dog, Ontario to compete in sports like volleyball, broomball, and archery. A handful of communities will participate, including the host team, Grassy Narrows, Big Grassy River, and Wasagomis Bay First Nation, to name a few. Event lead Malcolm Roulette says he expects around 100 young athletes to attend. He says opportunities like this are important for fostering connection and friendships for kids growing up on isolated reserves. One winter game that is sure to pique interest is the Water Boil Relay Race, a nod to the numerous boil water advisories in the region.
It has like a cultural component to it, where it's it's an outdoor event. Often it involves snowshoes, where it's kind of like a race, but back and forth, trying to get the supplies, what you need to make a fire. And so the goal is the team that makes a fire so that their water boils over first is the winner.
Time now for your results from last week's web poll questions. Our first question was, does your community have a school lunch program? 43% voted yes, 38% voted no, and 19% were unsure. Our second question was, do you think the federal government announcement to make groceries cheaper will help? 22% said yes, 60% said no, and 18% were unsure. And our final question was, do you feel the drug crisis in your area is getting better or worse? 58% said worse, 26% said unchanged, and 16% were unsure. Thanks to all who took the time to vote. Check back on our website to see this week's web poll questions at aptnnews.ca. Time now for one more quick break. We hear from a principal from Whitefish River in a few minutes. Don't go away. Cheska. Wow, welcome back. Starting on the East Coast, St. John's -2, Charlottetown -6. Over to Happy Valley Goose Bay, 1 degree, Nain -1. Chibougamau is -18, while Quebec City -11. Over to North Bay, -14, Toronto -9. Up by Big Trout Lake, it's -7, Sioux Lookout -2. Over to Churchill, -16, Thompson -14. Down to Winnipeg -1, Dauphin -3. Saskatoon is at -4, while North Battleford -5. Up to Uranium City -20, Buffalo Narrows -13. Moving west, Fort Chipewyan -11, Peace River 0 degrees. Edmonton is also 0, Calgary +7. Over to Bella Coola -2, Campbell River 6 degrees. Up to Dease Lake -3, Smithers +3. Way up in Old Crow -41, Mayo -19. Norman Wells -32, Fort Simpson -21. Over to Tuktoyaktuk -35, Colville Lake also -35. Cambridge Bay -43, Baker Lake -34. Resolute -29, and Iqaluit -22. Our next guest is a principal of the Whitefish River First Nation in Birch Island, Ontario. Principal Gail Payette got her students involved in writing letters to Ontario Premier Doug Ford and MP Jim Belanger, who represents the riding of Sudbury East Manitoulin Nickel Belt in Ontario. The letters bring more awareness to the Kashechewan First Nation in Northern Ontario. On January 4th, Kashechewan declared a state of emergency after the water treatment plant failed and sewage ended up in the community's drinking water. The incident caused most of the community to evacuate, and many were also sick with a parasite found in the community's drinking water, which also forced the evacuation of the nurses in the fly-in community. Christian Ajikote spoke with Principal Gail Payette. Here's that interview.
Gail Payette, thank you so much for speaking with us. Can you explain where you got this idea to get your students involved in writing to your local MP and Ontario Premier Doug Ford regarding the need for help for Kashechewan First Nation?
Well, I was breezing through social media one day and I happened to come across a post that a Kashechewan community member had shared with somebody stating that they were delivered one case of water that they had to share within their household, and that there was many people in their household for drinking, for cooking, for brushing their teeth. And with the amount of people in their household, it was like an outrageous question for them to be able to do that, right? And I believe it was all delivered to all the households, and with the amount of people there, like a case of water was not enough to fully substantiate what the community needed. So what I did was I shared that in our Facebook group that we have with the staff, and I started asking questions. How do you feel about this? What can we do about it? To me, it was outrageous that a community in Ontario, in Canada, is living like this. So we had some discussions and the staff started throwing ideas around, well, should we fundraise? Should we write letters of support? What should we do? So they came up with the idea of going back to the classrooms, showing the students news broadcasts, some YouTube videos about Kashechewan, and they decided, well, let's advocate for them. Let's write letters to the government, to our local MP, Jim Belanger, and to also Doug Ford to see if we can rally for support for them. Because honestly, we haven't seen the support from other community members, from other people in Ontario or Canada for that matter, to support Kashechewan First Nation.
And Gail, can you tell us what your students wrote to Premier Ford and MP Jim Belanger?
So the students shared some pictures and talked about what water does for us. Like we need it to live, we need it to drink, we need it to bathe, we need it to cook, and it's a necessity of life. That was our grade 1 and 2 students. Grade 3 to grade 6 wrote letters specifically to the government talking about how devastating it is, about the impact it's having on the community, what the price of water is at the local store in Kashechewan, and how the dirty water is not good for them, and just that what can the government do to support that community?
And did you receive a response back from the Government of Ontario or MP Belanger?
As of yet, we have not. So the letters were mailed out on or about January 22nd. So whether they have received them at this point or not, I'm unsure. We have not received any response. I do know, however, that local media outlets such as Anishinabe News, Manitoulin Expositor have jumped on this and shared this story as well, just getting it out there. And the response that we're getting in community and social media wide is a lot of people don't really understand, right? So the students sharing and asking for support for Kashechewan, I think, is opening and developing more awareness community-wide and social media-wide as well.
You're also teaching your students about the importance of human rights and the need for everyday necessities like clean drinking water. Gail, why are these lessons so important to teach your students?
These lessons are very important. They're integral in the development of our students. As you know, these students are going to be our future leaders, our future caregivers, our future knowledge keepers, and they must understand that everyone is important and that their voice matters. So in being able to speak their truth and advocate in a good way for other people instills that in them, right? So sharing that, and that we all have a responsibility to Mother Earth. right? We live with Mother Earth, and Mother Earth takes care of us. So that's our responsibility. And that, can I share a little bit about what the grade ones have done? So in the classroom, I've noticed lately that the grade 1 and 2 students are very cautious now of their water intake. They're being very conservatory about the intake they do. They don't fill their water bottles up right away, all the way. They do half a water bottle, and they make sure they drink it all. When they're washing their hands now, I noticed that, and the teacher was explaining this to me earlier too, that the students are so aware right now of the impact of what's happening in Saskatchewan that when they're washing their hands, they're rinsing, water goes off. Soap it up, water comes on, rinse again, water goes off. So they're very cautious of what they're doing with the water. The kindergarten students shared a little while ago, they had a discussion about it again this morning, and they were sharing how sad they are. Kindergarten students, how sad they are for Saskatchewan families, and especially because they're making relationships, or the connection to the students that are there, the connection of what's happening with their families, what's happening at the schools, what are they going to do? And some of the ideas that the kindergarten students had was that, well, we can fill up pots of water and we can send it off to Saskatchewan. Or how about we move our water from Birch Island or Whitefish River First Nation and move it to Saskatchewan because we have clean water here. And one student says, well, I can sell all of my stuff and send the money that we make to Saskatchewan. And then our grade 5, 6 students are being very aware of, well, and for me, they're so curious and they want answers. So they were talking about still being concerned, right? It's not right that they have to suffer, right? Because they are suffering. And sorry, I'm just reading the notes that they sent me. And they're saying that the people in Saskatchewan must feel helpless. And they must be wondering, what's next? What's going to happen next? What's happening with our families? We're being evacuated. When can we come home? What's going to happen to our homes? Right? So they have so many questions that they're wondering, and they're hoping that we do get responses. They've been asking me, have we gotten a response yet? Have we gotten a response yet? And unfortunately, I tell them we haven't gotten a response. We'll keep checking the mail and we'll see what happens. Part of our vision statement here at Shawanasway School is that our legacy will be a better world for the future generations of the Anishinabe people. And it's a part of who we are as Anishinabe people. And here at Shawanasway School, it's our vision, and the active support from the students has provided opportunities for the students to be involved in the water ceremonies locally here. We've done water ceremonies here at the school, and they're more aware. So they're going to be able to carry that knowledge on and share that knowledge as future leaders and caregivers and knowledge keepers as well. So I just wanted to share that as well. Thank you very much for inviting me on behalf of Shawanasway students and staff. It's been a pleasure.
Gail Payette is the principal of the Shawanasway School in Birch Island, Ontario. Gail, thanks so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And that's all the time we have for this afternoon cast for APTN National News. I'm TR Wheatley. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. Join me again at 6 p.m. Eastern for more Indigenous stories making headlines around the country. Until then, from all of us at APTN, both in front of the camera and behind the scenes, Egose, Gitam, Ginanasko Mitinawaw.